Okay. Today, in the Washington Post, there was a story that Secretary LaHood said it was unlikely that there'd be a transportation bill this year. And I called him, and I think that he feels a little differently now because he felt that he was not exactly quoted correctly. He feels concerned about the House approach. He's very supportive of the bipartisan approach of the Senate. And of course, he remains concerned that the two bodies have different approaches. But I want to say to you, as you know, 1.8 million jobs rely on reauthorization. And we also know that up to 1 million jobs could be created because of the way we treat TIFIA, the leveraging mechanism that we have in the bill, in a bipartisan way, increasing it from 110 million to 1 billion could create up to 1 million new jobs given the 30-to-1 leverage factor that you have there. So we're really talking about 2.8 million jobs, and we intend to get this done. So I think the important thing to say today is there's great progress. Leader Reid called me this morning and informed me that the Finance Committee will be marking up next week. I have confirmation from the Banking Committee that they will be marking up next week. And that means that all the committees by the end of next week will have done their job. As you know, EPW has resolved this a long time ago with a completely bipartisan vote. We know Commerce has acted, and then Finance and Banking. And then we would get this bill to the floor before the deadline, which is the end of March. So I think there's another piece of good news, which is that Chairman Micah informed me at the State of the Union that they also were marking up a bill. Now, it does have a different approach than our bill, but there's something called a conference committee, and he and I are looking forward to work together. We get along very well in that conference committee. And so we have made great progress this week. Now, just to put the finishing touches on what I want to say is I have for you here copies of a letter. It's a historic letter from over 1,000 groups represented here, every single state in the union and all the territories, calling for this bill. And I want to read a little bit from it. As Congress embarks on a new legislative session, we, the undersigned companies and organizations, urge you to make transportation job number one in 2012 and pass federal highway transit and safety legislation that at the minimum maintains investment levels before the current law expires on March 31. And they talk about to grow, the United States must invest. There are a few federal efforts that rival the potential of critical transportation infrastructure investments for sustaining and creating jobs and economic activity. So this is a historic letter. I never ever got a letter signed by more than 1,000 organizations. I hope you'll take a look at this. Every single state is represented here. The organizations first are listed nationally, and then they're listed by state. So my compliments to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce for organizing this, and the various labor unions that are in this. But this is a very, this particular letter represents America. That's the fact. So to sum up, we have great progress to report. A markup scheduled in 2 committees next week. Leader Reid very, very involved in this. A letter coming from more than 1,000 businesses and labor organizations and groups that is here. We're looking good. And the fact that Chairman Micah told me he's also marking up, and my conversation with Transportation Secretary LaHood, which was a good one this morning, where he said, look, I'm worried about it, but he said, I'm very supportive of the work that you're doing up here. And lastly, the President mentioning the need to rebuild our nation. So that's what I wanted to tell you. Good news here. We're moving forward, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes, Kate.
Senator Buxter, could you outline the differences that are in place now between your bill and the House bill?
Yes. Well, the House bill has not been done yet, so I can't tell you really because it's in motion. But what I do know, their approach is my understanding, is a 5-year bill And Bettina, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe it keeps up with current levels plus inflation now, but you'd have to ask Micah, because maybe he's changed it. Yes.
House Republicans are also discussing whether to add Keystone XL related language to their transportation bill. Obviously, you are not a supporter of that kind of provision, but how would you treat that if the House did pass a bill like that? Obviously, would it just die in conference as far as you're concerned?
Well, I'm not going to comment on something that may or may not go into that bill, but let me say something very clearly here. What we did in the Senate, I think, was a model of bipartisanship. Each side wanted certain things in there. I'm sure you could ask Senator Inhofe, he would love to see, more offshore drilling and Keystone Pipeline. I would have loved to have seen more action taken to reduce carbon pollution, but we stayed away from these controversies. Why? Because 2.8 million jobs really are at stake. So I just would urge the House, as they put together a bill, reach out to the Democrats. Do what we did here. We have Republicans and Democrats together on a bill. My recommendation to the House is reach out to the Democrats, have a bipartisan bill. If you lay this bill down, let me reiterate it a better word. If you load this bill down with very controversial items, it takes us right back to the debates and the arguments rather than the progress the American people expect of us. So, yeah.
Don't the proposals by the House, I know we haven't seen the bill yet, but don't the proposals to add drilling to fund it, aren't those maybe some things that could weigh down the bill like you were talking about from your perspective?
Very possibly, but I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to call for drilling in areas that already have the leases for? I've been for that for a long time. The oil companies have tens of millions of acres already approved, set aside, the lease is done. They're not controversial. If they do that, that's fine. If they start saying we want to drill in states that don't want it, that threatens, for example, in my state, the fishing industry, the tourist industry, the recreation industry, and millions of jobs, that's very controversial. So I've said that many times to Chairman Micah. Stay away from controversy. Look what happened to the FAA bill. Delayed, because there's some things in there that are so controversial that we can't come together on those things. And I think in the spirit of what the president said is, let's work together. Let's be a team for once. Let's look out for each other. We did that in our bill. We really did. I'm so proud of it. And again, are there things that I wanted in there? Yes. Have I gotten criticized by some in my own base that said, why didn't you do more on the environment? Because I don't want to put controversy in this bill. We are at a time in our history where we have to protect jobs and create jobs. And stay away from the controversy. Yes, Kim?
I'm not good at math, but isn't your bill still short? Is it $30 billion in funding?
No. It's a $12 billion over 2 years, and I feel it's very easy to bridge that gap.
Do you have any details from finance on what?
I'm not at liberty to share that.
Okay.
How might that affect timing? Do you expect finance to take a matter of weeks to figure this out?
I was told by Majority Leader that it will be done next week. So you can ask Leader Reid about it. But he told me, call me this morning. Okay? So just wanted to give you that progress report, share with you this extraordinary letter which we have here for you to see. And we'll move on, and hopefully when I speak with you next, we'll have made even more progress. Thank you very much.